Just about every parent has heard that cry in the night. Come, Dad, or come, Mother, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of something that's under my bed. I'm afraid of something that's in the room. Fear. It would be interesting to know how many people struggle every day with the fears in their life. Now, I know that there are times when we need to be afraid. The Bible talks a whole lot about fearing God and keeping His commandments. But there is a different kind of fear, that tormenting fear that will destroy us and keep us from doing the very things that we know we ought to be doing. Back in Matthew chapter 25, Jesus told the story of a master that called his servants to him and gave to them large sums of money. He gave one man 5 talents of gold. That would have been something comparable to $5 million in our day. Gave to another one 2 and to another one 1. So even the guy with the 1 had a large sum of money. He would have had about $1 million worth. And the Lord left on a journey, or the master did, and was gone for a long time, and they were to use the money that had been given to them and try to gain more. When the master returned, called them to give an accounting of how they had done, the man who had the 5 had gained 5 more, and the master said, "Well done, you're a good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. I'll make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joys of your Lord." The man who had been given 2 came back and said, "Well, I've gained 2 more." And the master said the same thing to him. "Well done." But then that 1 talent man came, the man with a mere $1 million gift. And he said, "Lord, I was afraid. I knew you're a hard man. You reap where you've not sown. You gather where you've not strewn any seed. And so I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the earth. And so here's what you gave me. You can have it back." And the master said, "You lazy, wicked servant." And he told the other servant, "Take that talent from him and give it to the one that has the 10. For to him that has, more shall be given. From him that has not, even what he has will be taken away." Now, I know that what Jesus taught in that particular story is not politically correct in our day. We would have taken 5 from the man with the 10 and giving them to that poor guy that had been afraid and only had 1. But that wasn't Jesus' way of doing things, or it's not the biblical way of doing things. Instead, he taught that the greater blessing comes to those who use what they have right now. But I want to focus on that statement, "I was afraid." He thought he knew the Lord. This is God that he's talking about when he said, "I knew you. You're a hard man. You're not fair. You reap where you've not sown. You gather where you've not strewn any seed." His assessment of God was that you're hard. You're tough to deal with. You're not fair in your dealings. And so his fear of doing wrong, of making a mistake, of suffering punishment, kept him from doing anything. And the reality is, fear often does that. It keeps us from doing the very things that we know we ought to be doing. Our fears often cripple us in everything that we would like to do. No wonder you read so many times of Jesus saying to the disciples, "Don't be afraid." When he went walking to them out on the water and they were frightened thinking that a ghost was approaching, he said, "Don't be afraid. It's me. It's the Savior that's come." And so today, our greatest plea would be we need to learn to conquer our fears. But how do we do that? John said over in the book of 1 John chapter 4 that perfect love casts out fear. He said, I know that your love has gone where it ought to be because you still have fears in your life. And so our fear demonstrates a lack of love. It demonstrates a lack of faith and trust in God and in His grace and mercy. We need, if we want to conquer fears, to grow in faith and grow in love for God and for other people. But I would suggest also, if we want to conquer fears, we need to do the things that we're afraid of. Often, our fears are like that one-talent man. They're there because we think we know someone or something that we really don't know at all. It was only when one would go ahead and conquer the fear by doing the very things that frighten them that one was able to overcome those fears. Over in Romans chapter 8, when Paul describes the greatness of that Christian life, when the Spirit of God is in us, he said, we can go through tribulations and trials and persecutions and all kinds of problems and be more than conquerors through Him that loved us. I would challenge you, become a conqueror. March with God to overcome the fears of life that keep you from doing the very things that you ought to be doing.